and let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, thank you all for spending your valuable time with us today. For all of our West Coasters, who I imagine are the majority of people on the call, hopefully you're enjoying some lunch. For any of you who are maybe in a later time zone, hopefully you had a delicious, nice lunch. Loretta, I see you. So exciting. My name is Ken MacDonald. I work for CMG Financial as their Vice President of Margin Management. And I also proudly serve as the Director of Education for the Washington Mortgage Banking Association. I've been with the WMBA for just over a year now, and I imagine I will be with the WMBA for many, many more years to come. Wanted to start off by announcing some quick housekeeping items. First and foremost, be sure to put yourself on mute. You don't want to be the one who's making that kind of noise in the background. I do have the ability to go and mute you on your behalf. So if that does happen, please do not be offended. We decided to hold questions for the end of the presentation. That way we have really good kind of panelist flow as we go through the meeting. We do have a Zoom chat feature, so feel free if you have a burning question that you want to get down in writing, go ahead and do that, and we can go revisit the questions again at the end. I imagine probably about 10 till the top of the hour, we'll go ahead and go through some of those questions and allow people to also ask questions on video or audio. Um, let's see what else. The presentation is being recorded. What we do is we end up taking the recording and we convert it into a YouTube video, and then we post the meeting and the YouTube video onto the WMBA website for those who maybe couldn't join for whatever reason. Um, Without further ado, very awesome presentation today. We have a panel discussion featuring HUD-approved housing counselors. The agencies that our panelists work for are on the front line of housing access, offering critical support to first-time homebuyers, underserved communities, and individuals facing housing challenges. For many these days, it seems like. This session will explore how housing counselors prepare clients for successful home ownership, collaborate with lenders and real estate professionals, and continue to offer equitable outcomes in Washington's housing market. So, jumping into the panelists, we have Becky House, who's the Director of Strategic Initiatives at American Financial Solutions. Becky oversees the organization's strategic partnering, housing counseling programs, and financial education initiatives and grant processes. She's been awarded the Agency Innovation Award for Financial Ed Programs, and was awarded the Educator of the Year Award, and has over 25 years of experience in program development in nonprofit organizations. Loretta, who I'm proud to see her face on the call, is the Homeownership Program Director and a HUD-certified housing counselor at Parkview Services. She is also Director of Parkview East, which opened the spring of 2020. Parkview is a nonprofit that provides affordable housing and homeownership solutions in the state of Washington, and she's been involved in mortgage and real estate industry for over 40 years. And then our moderator, Emily Northrup, is a grants administrator in the Home Ownership Division of the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Emily manages programs to support housing counseling services, pre-purchase education, foreclosure prevention, and mortgage assistance to homeowners across the state of Washington. And before joining the amazing Washington State Housing Finance Commission, she directed programs for people experiencing homelessness as they transitioned into supported and permanent housing. So we have an amazing group of people who are dedicating their time and energy to such amazing causes. Thank you, the three of you, for being here. Appreciate you so much. And without further ado, I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll pop on when it's time for some Q&A at the end. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate that fabulous introduction. And thanks to everyone who took up time to join us today. I am thrilled to chat with Becky and Loretta about housing counseling and how it prepares homebuyers, especially first-time homebuyers, to be successful homeowners. And we would like to, take some time to highlight how the work of housing counseling complements the efforts of lending and real estate professionals. So I think to start us off, you're both housing counselors with decades of experience, and I'm sure that most of us on the call today are familiar with the good work that y'all do for homeowners. But in case we have any new folks joining us, could you just take a minute to introduce your agency and educate us in a few words about what a typical homebuyer education or counseling journey might look like for one of your clients? And I'd start with, can I just pass it over to Loretta first? I see you're off mute.
All right. I am off mute. Okay, I had to check too. All right. Good afternoon. Happy Monday, everyone. So again, my name is Loretta. I'm with Parkview Services. We are a statewide HUD-certified housing counseling agency, which means that we can offer our services in every county in Washington state. We provide the one-on-one homeownership counseling, often required by specialty down payment assistance programs. We also offer homebuyer education once a month. That is a virtual class, one Saturday a month from 10 to 3 that meets the Housing Finance Commission's requirement for down payment assistance. We have our own down payment assistance program, and we offer post-purchase default counseling as well. So our counselors can go all the way to mediation. So we basically take care of home buyers from tenancy all the way through the whole 30 years of their homeownership journey. In a typical day, there are no typical days in housing counseling. I will tell you that every day looks completely different, which is wonderful. It's really important, and I talk to my staff all the time about the why, but I think it's really critical that lenders understand the why as well, and realtors. I'm not really sure what mix of the audience is, but anyone in the real estate profession, the why, when you get up and you do this job, is how we do our work. So if you're in it for short-term gain, you want to just have one or two, maybe it's a part-time thing. My recommendation would be to get as much education and to partner with as many people in the industry doing this as you can, because your why needs to be creating not only first-time home ownership, but building a book of business on that, where you're able to know so much about what that first-time home ownership journey looks like, that you build a clientele around it. You become the smartest person in the room as far as sharing this knowledge. So our typical day really is, for a lot of folks, is the class. And then we'll move them into a one-on-one section so we can individualize their action plan. And we can help them create next steps depending on where they're at in maybe their lease or their credit score building or their down payment or savings history. So each client, each household that we work with has different criteria, but it really begins with financial education. And that is going to be the topic throughout the entire process, because financial education doesn't stop when you buy the house, right? We all know that. It just gets more expensive as a homeowner because things break and taxes go up and things happen. And so it's really important that we stay on task with budget management. We'll reach back out to the first-time home buyer 6 months after they close to check in and make sure that they're still on that budget. But everything really begins and works with their financial capability.
And Becky, would you like to introduce AFS and talk a little bit about how housing counseling works in your shop?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Loretta, we do American Financial Solutions. We do business across Washington state, all the counties in Washington, cities, counties, and sometimes a little outside of there. Just depends on where someone's coming from. They may be moving into Washington state. But with that, our overall focus is on I would like to say it's a very holistic, which I know is maybe an overused word at this point in time, but it is a very holistic methodology. So we are very much focused on the individual and the family, what they're looking at, and we work with a lot of people who come into us who may have barriers to home ownership, and the goal is to provide the education and support around those things to help them move forward and find financial stability and develop assets. And you know, it's interesting because a lot of time the people that we're talking to, right, they want to buy a house like they wanted to buy it yesterday or the year before or the year before, and sometimes that's just not in the cards. But our goal is to stay with them on that entire journey. So even if, you know, let's say that a lender said, hey, go talk to these people at American Financial Solutions, you know, we know that at the end of this period where we've worked with someone to rebuild or build their credit to get them so that they're in a position they can borrow, that we can get them back to their lenders, and have that partnership going and keep creating those partnerships over time as we move forward. And again, it's really taking the time to understand the person and their situation. And I will tell you that sometimes we kind of have to go into the behavioral economic side of it with our clients. So they, you know, we're talking about why are we, you know, spending in this way when your goals are this way, which of course we don't say it that way. That's just the way that I'm saying it. But yeah, that's kind of that is the journey that we go on with our clients. Again, like Parkview and Loretta, we also do the flip side. We do pre-purchase housing counseling, we do post-purchase housing counseling, and we do provide foreclosure or mortgage assistance as well. We also do HECM counseling too. So as people get older, you know, if they're looking for additional income to come into their home, that's another area, another place that we can try to provide assistance and support and counseling.
Great, thanks, y'all. I really appreciate that sort of very small window into the large amount of services that you guys provide for potential home buyers and homeowners. Becky, I want to hit on something that you mentioned. You mentioned that your clients face challenges when they're engaging with the mortgage process. And I'm thinking you're probably talking about barriers like credit, amount of income, or lack of access to generational wealth. Are there other barriers that your clients face to homeownership, and what can counseling do to sort of help them bridge those gaps?
I think sometimes people, the barrier is in themselves, which is I don't want to go too wide here, but this is what I believe, and this is I think what our organization believes. That sometimes people just don't think it's in the cards for them. They don't think that there is that opportunity to become a homeowner. And so that can be a very real barrier. So, and the more that they feel or experience roadblocks, the more they may, you know, really internalize that and think, okay, well, that's just it. That's, you know, I'm out. This isn't going to work for me. So in addition to the credit and the income and the generational wealth disparity, there is the psychological difference in that belief that yes, I can be a homeowner, and we see it all the time. And we have I'm just going to do a shameless plug here, but our client of the year for noticed by our association, right? It's all over our social media. You can see her too. But that was one of the things for her that she, you know, she didn't think that she was going to be able to be a homeowner, and yet you know, she took the steps she needed to take to move herself out of debt and improve her credit and move back in with her parents. And here she is, you know, a single mother, homeowner, doing an amazing job. And so again, it's that overcoming that, like, it's not possible for me, which is amazing to see and amazing to watch.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Loretta, is there anything you'd like to add about what sort of barriers your clients might face and how counseling can help them overcome that?
Well, the huge barrier is home prices, right? So for a first-time home buyer, depending on the market that you're buying in, sometimes, you know, King County versus Spokane County, they can be very different. So finding pockets of opportunity, if your client doesn't need to live right next to their work, if they are able to move further out. I think another barrier is understanding how important it is to work with lenders and realtors who've done this before. first-time home buyers, especially if they're working virtually with you and they're signing documents on their phone with their thumb, it can be very overwhelming. Having a housing counselor as a part of that process can alleviate or, greatly dismantle some of those challenges for them, because they always have somebody that they can talk to. So we work together with the realtor and the lender as a team to overcome those challenges. But I think it's important that if we don't talk about it as professionals and help identify those challenges, we're not all working in the same direction. And that can be a challenge, is the realtor is working with a different sales price or doesn't understand the down payment, or the lender hasn't communicated with Parkview Services and they're using a specialty DPA program that requires housing counseling. And if they come to us a week before their close date, we've created a new challenge, because now we become a speed bump or a stop sign. Without the counseling certification, they may not be able to get that down payment assistance and close on time. So it's really important that we work together as a team to break down those barriers for the client and not add to them. And home ownership is tough enough, but it shouldn't be that difficult. It should be as seamless as possible. And by working together and understanding the programs that the buyer is qualified for before they make an offer on a home, you're going to eliminate 90% of those barriers.
That's really helpful. And I want to pick up on something you said, Loretta. You mentioned having a strong partnership between housing counselors, real estate professionals, and lenders. So to you, could you maybe describe for folks on the call what that sort of partnership might look like or how it could work?
Sure, absolutely. I have the advantage of having worked on all sides of this table, which is really beneficial when you're working with somebody and trying to explain all of the parties involved in the home buying process. But I understand the lending and the realtor side of this. I know where you're coming from. I know what information is available to you and the timelines that you're working with. And so we don't want to be in the way as housing counselors. We want to be a participant in a successful homeownership journey. And again, the sooner that you can engage, knowing, okay, for example, if you have a client that has a disability and you know that either you're using Parkview Services down payment assistance or Housing Finance's Home Choice program, that they're going to need housing counseling. Don't wait until the end of the process to reach out to the housing counselor. We want to be there along the way, explaining the appraisal, helping them understand the home inspection, going over the loan estimate. This is all part of what we do. The big myth that I would like to dispel is that we're going to somehow create this wonderful, ready-to-go client and take them somewhere else. As long as you've established that relationship and that client trusts you, you've already built that. I shouldn't have any interference in that whatsoever, right? So you making that referral and it being a warm handoff to that client instills trust between both of us or all three of us as we work together. I think it's important that maybe you attend a homeownership counseling session. I often invite the lenders to participate, see what we talk about, see the kind of information that we provide, understand what that client goes through, what that process looks like. In order for us to certify them for a down payment program, I have to have a complete file. I can't create that in a week. And so again, the sooner that we can begin to work together, the more successful that journey will be. I mean, it should be so seamless to the client. They didn't even notice the transition, right? The handoff, because they met all of us in the beginning, knowing that housing counseling they were going to get the gift of housing counseling. I would love to change the terminology to coaching. Unfortunately, HUD determines what we're called. So I like to call us homeownership housing counselors. But it's not a negative. It's not like being sent to the principal's office. It's a gift. It's at no charge to your client, and they get all of this amazing experience. I mean, personally, I come with over 40 years. My counselors combined have just as much. These are people that have been in the industry for years that are now working in the housing counseling space. And so we support everything that you're doing. We just want to make sure that it's affordable, It's stable, it's permanent, it's going to stick. We don't want them in our default program. And anything that we can do as a team to help that, they're going to refer more business to you because you created a positive experience than any other part of this journey.
Great. Thank you, Loretta. That was really, really insightful. Becky, I'm curious if you have anything to add or if there are any practices or traits in a lending partner that you think maybe smooth the process out or that you particularly appreciate.
I think I have a lot to add.
Yeah, please.
I obviously, right, for all of us in the housing industry, we are excited about having the opportunity to have down payment assistance programs, and get connected to those programs and get our clients connected to those programs, whether you are a lender or a realtor or a housing counselor. For all of us, we see that as an opportunity, and that is really important. And I think what Loretta's saying is really critical, is that it is a partnership, and that is what we want. And we don't want to, I mean, I personally have been on the side where someone's like, well, we needed this yesterday. And can you hurry up and get it out for us? And that creates, I'm not trying to, cry for us, but it does create stress for us and for our counselors. It creates stress for you, the lender or the realtor. It creates stress for the clients. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that home buying process to be a stressful, situation. So we want to make sure that those handoffs are, or like Loretta said, maybe they're not handoffs. We're working together every step of the way because we know it's coming, that we're going to need this certificate in order to access this down payment assistance. So we do get connected earlier in that process, and we know, okay, it's coming, is everything, being done to meet what we need to do in order to be able to say, yes, here's the, the certificate for that. And again, relieve any type of stress. So it is just a natural part of that process. And really thinking about housing counseling and housing counselors as partners whose goal is to make your clients stronger, and ensure that they can access whatever funds are necessary in order to achieve that home ownership. I think for all of us on the housing counseling side, it's great. When we have some amazing relationships with lenders and some amazing relationships with realtors where they are, consistently sending us referrals, and that's fantastic. And of course, we would love to have more of those. And you can bet that we're not going, if somebody comes to us, we're not going to say, oh, geez, if Loretta's the lender, we're not going to say, oh, you should totally look at this other lender over here or this other lender over here. I know we all hear the whole, HUD says you have to give 3 referrals, but we're not talking about that in this kind of a situation. We're talking about that in a situation where someone comes in cold, right? They're just talking to a housing counselor for the first time. But I want you to think about what, as a human being, right? If I know that, Loretta is a great lender, and I've worked with Loretta a million times, do you think she's going to be on my list of 3 people? Probably, because I know her, right? So that's a really important relationship. So when she's ready to buy, I will, she's going to be on that list. So anyway, I guess that's really what I just wanted to say.
Yeah.
No,
and setting
really
realistic expectations. I think that's really important, because not only does it show your professionalism, it shows that you respect what we do as a housing counseling agency. And so letting the client know 3 days before this, 5 days before that, a week after that, if we're all setting expectations that we can meet within that closing time frame, it also helps the client to understand where they're at in the process. Nothing then becomes a surprise, unless it's a good surprise and they close early.
You touched on this a little bit, Loretta, but I think this is a pretty important opportunity to take. But are there myths or misconceptions about housing counselors or housing counselors you'd like to bust, other than maybe sending clients in another direction?
We're not a class. So we do teach a home buyer class. It's 5 hours, 5.5 with a lunch break, and that meets one requirement. The certificate is then good for 2 years, and that opens the door for them to potentially get into down payment assistance. But meeting with a housing counselor is not a class. It is a one-on-one, very personal experience where we will create an action plan with action steps that the client, the borrower, provides to us. We do that in tandem. And so we get a lot of calls, again, right before closing, where people will say, I just need to get into this class. I need to close next Thursday. And so I think it's important that lenders and realtors understand it is a one-on-one experience, and we can't evaluate a client's financial ability to repay without income documentation, without asset information. And that certification that we provide has to go to housing finance to reserve those down payment funds. So it's important that we do our job as well as you do your job. We're all professionals in this industry supporting one goal of responsible home ownership. And so I guess that's a myth. We're not a class, we're a one-on-one experience, but we are flexible. I will have no problem taking a client after 5. I never want anyone to have to take time off of work to buy a house. That is counterproductive. We are working on a budget here, people. So we will work with them. You know, you let us know, hey, they can only meet at 4:30 or at 6:30 or on a Saturday. And we will make those adjustments. We can be as flexible as you can be. You know, I'm never going to give the client my personal cell phone number. I'm no longer on that side of the business. Please don't give them that number either. But Paul, you can call me as the professional. I talk to lenders and realtors all day, every day about unique situations before you refer the client. What would you think about this? So we're not just there to support your client. We're there to support you as an industry professional to grow your business, to be more knowledgeable about products, bounce the scenario around. Ask me, what programs do you think this person might qualify for? You know, pick our brains. That's what we're here for. And so I guess that's another myth, is that we're only here to serve one purpose or one population. We serve everybody, and we have to know what's available. Well, the state of Washington is so collaborative. All the nonprofits work together, and we all know what each other has. And so if you just call and say, here's my situation, maybe I know something that will totally benefit them. Oh my gosh, they can buy now because I've got this down payment that I can layer with this down payment. We're able to layer these programs together. I'm working on one right now with Habitat where we're literally in 5th lien position. Whatever it takes to reach affordable home ownership, because the sales price doesn't change. Just because they have 5 loans, they're only paying on one. When they sell the house, they'll pay them all back, and guess what? The value was still the same. But we can't begin to grow equity if we don't close on the loan. So the sooner that we can get them into home ownership, sooner they can begin to grow equity and build generational wealth. And working together, maybe we can make that happen.
Becky, any myth busting you'd like to engage in?
No, I think Loretta really nailed that. I want to really echo what Loretta said in terms of collaboration. At our state, we are very lucky. I hear it all the time about how collaborative we are in this state. And I think that's, you know, I think as long as we are all putting the best interest of the client at the forefront of what we're doing, which I think, you know, people wouldn't be here today in this Zoom room if that's not what was important to us. So, you know, I think that's what we're looking for, is that collaboration and that trust between us, the housing counseling agencies, and the realtors and the lenders that are out there.
Absolutely agree. So we've talked about, you know, getting clients in to chat with you guys earlier. We've talked about real estate professionals, lending pros, calling you beforehand to bounce some ideas off, taking a collaborative approach. When we're speaking about clients that might be facing particular challenges like income, lack of generational wealth, lack of information about financial stability, is there anything that lenders could do from your perspective that might help better prepare clients for the buying process when they reach your office? Becky, I'll shoot it to you first.
I think understanding what programs are out there and that are available, which is really goes into, I mean, it's learning, and surveying the scene and, being present, showing up at different meetings and Housing Washington is next week.
Yep.
There's a plug for that. Being in those circles, being in those spaces, because that's how you learn what's out there and what's available. And I think that's a big part of it. And I forgot the question, but I think the other thing is just having the conversations, I think, with the housing counseling agencies about like Loretta said, going back to what she was saying, asking for information. I mean, we have to know that information. We have to know what's out there. We have to know what's available, what we can, talk to our people about when they contact us if they haven't spoken to a lender yet. So it's a wealth of knowledge. Housing counseling agencies are a wealth of knowledge, and I think that's another point as well.
And Loretta, is there anything that that you think, from your perspective, lenders could do to help put clients in a better position before you get a chance to chat with them?
My suggestion would be, let's don't wait too long. Okay, so the sooner that we can reach somebody, the sooner that we can begin the action plan and put into play the steps necessary to achieve that goal. If somebody is a month away from having to renew a 1-year lease and they're just now reaching out to you, it's going to make our job extremely difficult. If they just signed a 1-year lease, everything will expire. You need to know where they're at in their rental situation. If they are in a lease, because it's very difficult to get out of one right now, or if they're couch surfing and we get phone calls about, my roommate wants me out in 2 weeks. Those kinds of things are extremely difficult because now we're working in crisis as opposed to working on future goals. And we'll help them through that, but they're probably not ready for you to start pulling their credit because they've got other challenges that we need to overcome. So if somebody's talking to you like that, say, you know what, let's get a housing counselor involved. Let's see what they can do maybe to get you housed in the interim. And then we'll work on that home ownership goal. So knowing there are other resources besides just buying and selling allows all of us to work together to create that as a future goal. The other thing is the adverse action. It is so frustrating for us because sometimes it can take, these aren't just first-time home buyers, right? These are first-generational home buyers. And they can take everything they have to reach out for help. And they go in and meet with a lender and they say, nope, sorry, you just get a letter in the mail that says you're declined. They'll go away and we may never hear from them again. So my gift, the gift you could give to us would be, if you've got somebody in that situation, they're not ready, not now, not yet, reach out, have them on the phone with you. Hang on while they're in your office. Let me make a phone call and reach out to a housing counselor and let them know, look, Mrs. Jones is sitting here. We're not going to be able to lend to her right now, but I'm wondering if you could work with her to help build her into to where she's ready for home ownership, and we'll work together. And when she's ready, we'll continue to work on that financing with her, rather than just sending a letter with a 1-800 number. You guys know us. We're right here. We're not 1-800 numbers. We're real people who really care. And if you know a housing counselor, you already know that. But you don't have to just send them a letter and hope they dial a 1-800. Take the responsibility. Take that next step to make sure they're connected with resources to improve whatever reason you denied them. So next time that doesn't happen.
I'll just add to that. It's a huge, boon to someone's psyche, but it's also a huge to the client, the person on the inside, that someone's saying, hey, yeah, here, I'm going to take the moment, that it's a learning moment, right? Your credit is not where it needs to be. So I'm going to refer you to these people. So now the person has learned 2 things. 1, my credit's not where it needs to be. And 2, there are resources out there instead of just being passed aside. The other thing is that for the lender, that's another huge opportunity, because that is a potential home buyer who may go, hey, you know what? I worked with this person once and they, couldn't help me then, but they tried to get me connected with this other organization that did. well, now I know someone and I want to go back to them. And I will tell you how I know that so well. There was a lender that I worked with. I bought my house that I live in now in 2011, and that lender originally turned me down, but he sat there and he talked to me for a long time about the stuff that was in my credit and what I needed to do, and made a referral for me. And it was, you know, he made a referral for me to my own agency, which wasn't that helpful, but it was okay. I was like, yeah, I do know who that is. But anyway, and that is who I ended up going back to. I went back to him when I bought my house in 2011. I went back to him, and he wasn't even at the same place anymore. He was now out on his own as a mortgage broker. But that's where I wanted to be, because I knew him and I trusted him. So it's a huge opportunity for everybody. It's easy to just say like, nope, I'm sorry, you know, unfortunately it doesn't work. But to take that one extra step and get them connected is huge.
I do want to save some time for questions if anyone has them, but before we do that, one of my favorite things about talking to you ladies is getting to hear stories about clients who are able to overcome barriers, use down payment assistance, take advantage of housing counseling, and now they're homeowners. So I'm curious, it's been a while since I've got to pick your brain about this, but I'm curious if there's anybody top of mind with a story like that you would like to share before we open it up for questions. Well, Loretta, go for it.
Okay, only because this one just closed, so it's very top of mind, but it's an amazing story. So this is in Odessa, which is Lincoln County, Little Odessa, Washington. Sales price is $200,000. Yes, there are still pockets of opportunity out there. It passed the HUD inspection checklist. They can move in tomorrow. That's all that we require. Maybe it needs a new roof in 3 years. We'll work on a budget to plan for that. But for now, they can move in. So they were using our down payment assistance. So Parkview offers down payment assistance was $100,000 because it was a single mom and a son, but he was an adult son with a disability. In order to use his income, because he has Social Security and she got paid to be his caregiver, in order to use all of their income, she needed to be his legal guardian in order to sign the loan documents. He was not capable of signing those, but he needed to be on the title. I mean, that's part of what we do is we want to create a safe space for people with disabilities that they never have to move out of. So the seller was just amazing. We were so lucky to have such an amazing seller that waited. So it was not yet. It was a not yet. We helped them get in touch with somebody, connected them. They went through the guardianship process. I mean, she really took it on her own. She was not giving up. And that is a big part of this whole process, is that you have to be their cheerleader so they don't give up. They closed on their house last Thursday. This has been going on since April. Again, the seller hung in there. Interest rates actually came down. We were in second position. So they didn't even use the home choice for this particular. So they had the first mortgage lender at 109, Parkview Services at 100. Her total mortgage payment is $951. Yes, this is affordable, permanent, stable home ownership. They never have to move again. He gets to paint his bedroom. He is so excited. But it's these little wins that remind us why we do this very important work. But again, the lender worked with us. The realtor worked with us. And they checked in independently with me, which is absolutely fine. Status updates are always provided as they're available. I want everybody, the seller, the buyer, the lender, the down payment, everyone to feel comfortable about where they're at in the process to the best of our ability. And so communication was there, and the buyer kept plugging along and the seller hung in there, and it happened. So the moral of the story is don't give up. Check with us and make sure that your client knows that, hey, look, we can't do it now, or let's have one more conversation with somebody else. Make sure that we're covering all of our bases, because getting to closing, getting to funding, it happened like the docs went out, the wire went in, the keys were handed, and there were no interruptions at that part of the process.
I love that. Thank you so much. That makes my day hearing about it. So Becky, I'll give you last word if you have anything you'd like to share, final thoughts, and then we're happy to open it for questions, Ken.
I'll just say, again, just final thoughts. I think that it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish when you work together as a group, and really look at the people in our community as partners. So whether it's a lender or realtor or even another housing counseling agency, right? There's no uh fighting even between the housing counseling agencies. If I don't understand something or I don't know what's going on, I can call Loretta and say, I don't understand what is this? And she will explain that to me. And I think, again, I think that's unique to our community based on what I hear from other states. I feel like that's unique to our community, and I feel like it is really powerful, and it does help us accomplish a lot of what we see when we see movement in our communities and see people moving into home ownership who, may have never thought they had that opportunity. So it's a great circle to be a part of.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, ladies, so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you at Housing Washington. So.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing everything that you do. Such important roles, important companies, both Parkview and American Financial Services. Thank you so much for everything. Washington State Housing Finance Commission, obviously, a huge thank you to you guys. I know Lisa's on the phone as well. Big shout out to her and everything that she does for the commission. I think some of my biggest takeaways, I mean, just the whole, I think Loretta brought this up, the whole coaching versus counseling. And like, it's amazing how just like, how important that distinction between words is, right? And the cheerleading aspect. Like this isn't, hey, you're in the doghouse for doing something wrong and you need, it's more, hey, we have your back. Because let's be honest, purchasing real estate, it's a daunting process. I don't care who you are, what walk of life you're from. I think everyone would benefit from having someone by your side to say, hey, you got this, because the stress that comes along with it is pretty daunting. So again, thank you guys so much. I would like to open it up for questions with those on the phone. Does anyone have any questions for either Becky or Loretta or Emily for that matter? Please feel free to chime in, and the floor is yours.
I saw a question in chat that asked if we offer housing counseling in multiple languages, and yes, we do. You let us know what language you need, and we'll make sure that's available.
We do. We have two Spanish speaking counselors on staff, but we also use a language line. So if someone does speak another language that we don't have, they can, as Loretta said, let us know, and we can get an interpreter.
Excellent. I'll say that just kind of goes along the lines of working the evenings, working the potential weekends. And I know Becky talked a lot about that kind of that team aspect. This is it's I think of the phrase, it takes a tribe, right? So very cool that you guys have adopted that taking on other languages and then that translation services. It's fantastic. Any other questions?
Somebody was asking about our contact information. Can you maybe put our emails?
Happy to put them in there.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Great. All right. While Emily is getting the contact information, just want to reiterate that this presentation is being recorded, and so this will be shared out to the WMBA website. So if you have friends, colleagues who missed out on the meeting, whether they just didn't get the invite or maybe something came up in the chaos of work and life, and so they couldn't join last minute, you can feel free to direct them to the WMBA website. I imagine that should be up. Today's Monday. I imagine by Wednesday we should probably have that posted. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one final time here. Just looking at some upcoming events with the WMBA. We have the WMBA annual kickoff meeting plus dinner program is actually this week on 9/24, so Wednesday, from 4 to 7 at the Tai Yacht Club. in Seattle. I believe registration has closed by this point. I'm going to go out on a limb and say if you really do want to attend and somehow you missed that registration, you may want to inquire, see if they have some last minute spots that you can join. So again, 9/24, 4 to 7 p.m. We will have our very own WMBA Advocacy Alliance quarterly call with our lobbyist, Jessica Fortescue, who is awesome if you haven't heard her speak, kind of tying things that are happening in DC and Olympia just with our state. And I think she does a wonderful job of taking what I consider to be very much legal mumbo jumbo and kind of put it into layman's terms so that I can understand from a legal perspective what's going on with real estate and real estate financing in our lovely state. On October 2nd, we have a virtual meeting, much like the Lunch and Learn, from 12 to 1 p.m. And this will be about tariffs and the cost of ground up construction. Obviously, hot topic these days with tariffs kind of swirling all around us and changing at a moment's notice. So please be sure to look at that on the WMBA website and sign up if you'd like to attend. October 16th, 11 a.m. to 1:30, WMBA October dinner program talking about AI. Again, another very hot topic in our industry. And then we have October 22nd is the WMBA monthly November dinner program. This will be a coaching focus, and the plan is to get some speakers who focus on coaching. And then finally, I'm sorry, that's on November 19th. I kind of skipped the October dinner program, October 22nd, November program, November 19th. I want to say thank you again for everyone who joined and spent your lunch hour with us. Thank you so much again, Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Emily, wonderful job moderating. Becky, Loretta, thank you so much for kind of opening up what you do on a daily basis and how you help achieve residents of our state achieve that American dream and goal of home ownership. You guys do incredible work, and thank you, thank you, thank you. With all that, thank you for joining and have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Bye-bye, y'all.
Thanks, Ken. Bye, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.